So I'm so excited that you guys are here. We are excited to have these 5 individuals to come all the way across the world just to present to us. You wouldn't believe what we did just to get them here, what it took, but they made it, and we're just so excited to have you here. As you know, this year's Prevention Day theme is Power of Prevention, Strengthening Community Voices. So as we engage and learn more about how Native youth are taking a stand about issues and challenges within their communities, we hope that your voice will be strengthened as you go back to your community and just listen and learn as to what they're doing to help strengthen where you come from. I just want to do a few announcements. It'll be very quick. I would like to acknowledge the National Congress of American Indians and the Center for Native American Youth for just working in partnership with us to bring the kids here. They worked just as hard as we did, trust me, and we are thankful for you guys, and we appreciate all of the hard work, and thank you for identifying such great individuals. I'd like to also state that we just want to remind everyone to download the free CADCA Forum app for your phone or your tablet. If you search, it's under CADCA Forum, that's C-A-D-C-A Forum in the App Store. And so this will allow you to find sessions and descriptions along with available PowerPoints that you can take back to your communities. We will take a few brief moments to evaluate the session and each session that you attend. So if you can complete the forms in the back there, that back table on the session, or you can assess them on the app or your website as well. And then we also have the CADCA just launched its annual survey of coalitions. And we just want to remind everyone to be a part of it. So if you want to send an email to survey@cadca.org, you can complete the survey there, and those who complete it by February 17th will enter a drawing to receive prizes, including this year's Mid-Year Training Institute in Atlanta, and Echo Dot and Roku Express. So, enough of that. I just, again, want to thank everyone for coming. And I just also want to talk about why we're here. In 2014, we had our SAMHSA Native Youth Conference, and pretty much what we heard was the youth were there that attended were just incredible. When we got there, they just pretty much took over. We thought that we had to do so many things in preparation, which we did, but they just came in and they made it their own, and we listened, and we heard exactly what it is that they're facing. We heard it from, quote unquote, the horse's mouth. You know, we talk for youth all the time, but this was a platform for us to listen to them. And it was well attended. We had over 200 individuals there, 125 youth, and representatives from various federal agencies. So from that, OTAP, the Office of Tribal Affairs and Policy, we really internalized what the youth said. So we decided to create the SAMHSA Tribal Youth Leadership Academy. And as you can see, this is our academy. It's going to grow. They're there to network. The style is what we call it as the acronym. But our Leadership Academy is here to train our mentors to be mentors, our youth to be mentors, and it's definitely something that we encourage peers to be a part of. Like we said, this is their own, and they're here to go back and serve in their communities and just to communicate to one another as to what's working and what's not working. We also do a lot of leadership training and insights into engaging elected and traditional tribal leaders in communities with different discussions that they have. So we encourage them to take back what they are learning to decision makers, lawmakers. This is the time to do it. So the Style Leadership Academy, this is a pretty big deal for OTAP, and we just again thank the NCAI for being a part of it and working with us to do that. So I'd like to bring our first presenter up. This is Mr. Rory C. Wheeler of the Seneca Nations of Indians, Mandan Hidatsa, Arika Nation. Rory is the co-vice president of NCAI Youth Commission. He is currently studying criminal justice, law enforcement, and he was a part of the Unity 25 Also, he's the foundational ambassador of the Generation Indigenous, the Gen I. And he is an EMS lieutenant with the Seneca Nation Division of Fire and EMS. So without further ado, I bring to you Roy Willer.
Hello, my language and sign language. I say now is Canada Wago. I'm thankful for each and every one of you for being here and your great well-being. As I said, my name is Rory Wheeler. I'm a turtle-clad member of the Seneca Nation Indians and also the Mandan Recurrent Nation of North Dakota. As of it's actually been a week now, I've been promoted to the rank of EMS Lieutenant for the Seneca Nation Indians Division of Fire, also the co-vice president of the NCAI Youth Commission. I'm 19 years old. I graduated high school in June 2015, and when I graduated, I didn't know what I did, but something I've always wanted to do was be an EMT, and it's with my fire department. And even though it's volunteer, it's something I've always wanted to do. So in last March, I did it, got my certification, and went right on the road, and last week, Friday, I was actually awarded the 2016 EMT of the Year with my fire department.
Woo! Yeah!
I have a very unique perspective of seeing our community. I've been a strong leader in our community. I've been a community organizer since I was 12, since I moved back to the reservation. I wanted some way to help. And so the easiest thing was right across from where I lived. It was the fire department. So I began volunteering with the fire department when I started when I was 12, which led to me getting involved into a government organization, which led me to where I am with NCAI, and also with my White House Tribal Nations Youth Ambassador. This fire department led me to a lot, and it's my duty now to give back to our community. That's why I became EMT. And I see a unique perspective. We are a tight-knit community, and we often see friends, families, neighbors at their worst. But every day we still find it in our hearts to respond day in and day out. In recent months, my community has seen a lot of heartbreaking events. The end of October, the last week of October, we've been actually struggling with the opioid epidemic. It's been going on for the last couple of years, and this summer, following to current times, it's been getting worse. I've had close friends, family members, and even neighbors succumb to this. But the last week in October, we had a fatal shooting on our reservation from an opioid incident. And then a couple days later, we had 2 deaths within hours of each other. 2 young, bright females, leaving behind 1 child, both of them just about the same age. Very devastating for that to be there when that happened, trying to be there for the family. And also, this is what drives me to advocate and work to end this. I finally come to the realization that if we do nothing about this problem, it only perpetuates the cycle and makes it worse. We have to be the change we want to see. The funerals, the tears, and suffering needed to stop. Ignoring the problem wasn't the solution. In response to these fatal incidents, what I just noted, our fire department wanted to gather our community to heal. We held a candlelight vigil joined by surrounding fire companies and law enforcement agencies, and tolling the bell of each incident which involved opioids in our community, with over 100 bell tolls in less than 1 year. We held a community meeting to discuss what we as a community can do to fight the epidemic we face. We're joined by members of our council, include our president, our treasurer, and different law enforcement agencies, to start a dialogue on what we as a community can do. There was a lot of blame going around when this was happening. I seen a lot of people blaming, well, the nation should be doing this, nation should be doing this. And I said, no, they should. What can you do? So a model like I like to live by is, you be the change you want to see in the world. And so this is the change I want to see. We need to stop falling victim to drug and alcohol abuse. As the EMT and also a strong leader in the community, I see a very unique perspective, and that's what drives me to do what I do today, day in and day out. So, to close, I just want to say, it's been a very difficult year. In May, I lost a cousin due to a very preventable incident. In July, right before it was went to Unity, we had a car accident right on the side of at the corner of my road. 7 individuals, all under 21, were at a party, drinking, smacked into a tree. One is still in the hospital, still blind, and I will never be good again. But I see these issues that happen day in and day out, and that's what drives me to do what I do, to be their youth voice in our community, to say it's time not to ignore it anymore, it's time to do something, it's time to act. Well, that's all I got for now, but thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Next, we have Christy Wildcat. Christy was the 2016 recipient of the Center for Native American Youth Champion for Change, and the 2016 Unity 25 Under 25 recipient. She's a sophomore at the University of Wyoming, majoring in American Indian Studies with a minor in anthropology. So, welcome, Christy Wildcat.
Dos, Nate Anon, and Anano, Christy Wildcat, and Anano. Hello everyone, I'm Christy Wildcat. As introduced before, I am Northern Arapaho, and I'm 18 from Riverton, Wyoming. I'm going to the University of Wyoming, and I'm also the oldest of 4 sisters. And the reason why I really specify that is because my little sisters are the reason why I'm doing all my work, as well as other youth. So my initiative is the Wind River All Action Crew, or RAC for short. We are a community service-based group, and what we do is we give back to the community. Whatever we find, anything to do with the community, we do it. Whether it's delivering cookies to an elder home, or we're making little Christmas cards, to giving cultural presentations, and all sorts of that stuff. It's just different. And so I co-founded this with my cousin, and so it started out as a family-based type group, but we have expanded to friends of friends, and we're not just Native Americans, we also do have non-Native members as well. And so what we do, like I said, give back to community, but we also want to rid of the racial tensions that lie within Riverton. With Riverton and the reservation, Riverton's on reservation land, but they don't consider themselves. So as you can see, that's tension right there all on its own. And so we want to rid of those barriers and kind of make it ease a little bit. And so when we eliminate those racial tensions, it tends to get rid of the stereotypes as well. And with those, we can teach people all about the Native culture without promoting those stereotypes. As you can see, they're everywhere nowadays in sports, they're a major issue. And with that, it just rids of the racial tensions and all of that. But with this group, when we also give back to the community, the youth are finding an outlet to put something into there, to give back, to prevent whatever they could be doing, drugs or alcohol. But when they're in this group, we give them an outlet, something to do within the community. And with this initiative, I have received, I shouldn't say I should say we, because we are a group. We have received nothing but positive reactions from school districts within the community. CNAY have been huge supporters for them, and they are awesome resources, so thank you guys. But the importance of prevention, like I said, it prevents negative images of those stereotypes, not just the physical, where you get the feathers and the face paint, but also the stereotypes of being drunks or drug abusers all the time. That's not who we are. It never was, and I say it never will be, as long as we keep on doing the path that we're doing, making the change in the youth, giving back to the community like we all are. And it gives a positive reinforcement to do better with your life and do better in the community and to thrive in the world that we live in. And you want to make it better for the world, for the next generations as well. And so that's why we start the youth early. I think our youngest members we have is my little sister. She's about 8. She's been doing this ever since we started. It was back in 13, I believe. So She's been doing it quite a while, and as you can see in the pictures, that's a elementary we went to do. We do social presentations, I think, about twice a year, like in the fall and the spring. So this is last spring. This is Aspen Park Elementary. And you can see all those kids, they're extremely happy. We have a question and answer session with them, and the things they ask are just crazy. And it's so funny, and like, it's awesome to spend a day with them and to dance with them and to show them our culture as well. It just gives you a good feeling as well. And in the second picture, you can also see that we're at Morningstar. It is a senior center, but we prefer to call it elder home, because that's where a lot of elders live, and they don't get visitors a lot every day. So we do is we make them cookies, and we take them cards around Thanksgiving. We make them hand turkeys, little hearts for Valentine's Day, and we take them to them and just spend the day with them. And it's an incredible experience. We took them hand turkeys this past Thanksgiving, and out of all people I never expect to be there is one of the original Rosie the Riveters. She had a hat, she had a certification, everything. She was one of the original ones. So that just proves by giving back, you get to meet these awesome people and keep in touch with them. And so it also prevents in all sorts of ways, gives that outlet to give back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. So next we have Mr. Lance Sanchez. Lance is from the Tohono O'odham Nation, and he is the secretary for the NCAI Youth Commission. He's also a part of the Unity Executive Committee, which was in 2016-2017, and it is the United National Indian Tribal Youth. So thank you, Lance.
Thank you. Año Lance Sanchez, Anja Sapota Kuchin, the Nation, Anya Kokohomoko Isaac. Good day, my name is Lance Sanchez. I'm a member of the Sepoy District on the Donaldson Nation. I'm 21 years old, and I currently attend Donaldson Community College. So, I'm also the newly elected president of our nation's Youth Council, as well as the secretary of Inside Youth Commission and Unity Executive Committee, Western Regional Representative.
Woo.
So, our Youth Council is partnered with the Methamphetamine Suicide Prevention Initiative, and how that started was Unity Executive Committee 2 years ago passed a resolution called I Will Live, and they wanted youth councils to take this resolution back to their communities and bring awareness to suicide and prevention. So my youth council brought this back, and we presented at an intertribal SAMHSA youth forum, which we were then contacted by the project manager of MSPI, and that brought us the Wujud Humachkam Apatak, which is Young People's Wellness Project. Prevention for us, it is who we are and who we identify ourselves as, and where we come from culturally, through songs, dance, and ceremonies. So with that, we've had prevention training and created events and activities with team building within our communities focused on suicide awareness, prevention, and advocacy. We implement evidence-based and practice-based approaches to build resiliency, as well as promote positive development and self-sufficient behaviors among Native youth within our tribe. We promote family engagement and increase access to prevention activities for youth. So, as I mentioned before, we as a youth council create activities and events within our communities and our districts where we don't necessarily call it suicide prevention, we just call it community activities, but to us, we know what it means, and it's suicide prevention. Sorry, I kind of lost where I was. So, as a youth council, we recruit youth to join and learn and teach traditional songs and dances. Our main event that we have is Autumn Camp, and from there we talk about everything that is culturally relevant to us, and we bring back, I guess it would be workshops focused on whether it be the men's roles, women's roles traditionally, or games that we played way back then. And what we're trying to do is get youth to see and who they are and where they come from, and how it will help them lead a better life, especially at a young age. And because everything they surround themselves with, it really helps them make the positive decisions as they grow up in life. So, sorry. One thing we used was, I guess, to paint a picture, we are the tree trunk, and the branches and leaves are things that may cause suicide or just different kind of behaviors. So what we, as youth council, have gone back to the roots, which is the prevention part of it. So with that, as I mentioned before, we really try to get you to come out and just join us with these activities. And it really has done we've done an amazing job. There's a lot of youth that have came out to our activities. And so, yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. I might be forgetting something. I apologize. Yeah. Thank you.
We'll have a question and answer for you. So next we have Ms. Jasmine Rose Espinoza. Jasmine is from the Stockbridge Muncie Band of the Mohegans. She is a 2015 recipient for the Champion of Change, and she is also a published author working on her second book. So that's pretty amazing. So welcome, Jasmine.
Hello everybody, my name is Jasmine, and like she said, I am part of the Stockbridge Muncie Band of Mohegans, and I used to live in Wisconsin on the reservation. That's where I grew up, but I now live in Michigan with my fiance and my 1-year-old son, and we live close to the Gun Lake Reservation, so I'm still blessed to be able to be a part of the culture and go to powwows and still be able to connect with other people that share the same values and the same background as I do. And speaking of backgrounds, for you guys to better understand the program that I created and ran, I would have to give you guys a little bit of a background on myself. So growing up, I found myself unintentionally made part of many statistics, as many other Native youth are. You can't really help if you're born into a broken home or if your parents are an alcoholic. And I feel like a lot of Native youth today find themselves involuntarily made part of those statistics. So I grew up without a father, and my mom had boyfriends coming in and out of the house all the time and things like that. And to add to it, there were a couple events in my life that led to severe PTSD and anxiety disorder. So around the age 13, 14, where people are usually find themselves kind of asking themselves who they are, what they want to be in their life, I sort of felt stuck because I had all this baggage with me that I felt wasn't even mine. And a lot of Native youth today feel like that because of things like historical trauma or being made stereotyped and things like that. So at the age of 15, I ended up being a victim of sexual assault, which sort of pushed me over the edge, and I tried to commit suicide 12 times. And thankfully I didn't get to the point where I had to be severely hospitalized or anything, but I ended up getting the help that I needed. But once I had removed myself from the situations that I was in, I became homeschooled, and I was able to take my own path and find out who I was. But I had also realized that many of my peers and my friends didn't have the opportunity that I did to be able to step back from the life that they were living and to be able to seriously ask themselves who they want to be without the influence of their peers or the influence of peer pressure for drugs and alcohol and things like that. And I really asked myself what would be able to give them that opportunity besides taking the hard road like I had, because it really hurt to see so many people that I had grown up with start to go down the path that I had gone down, and knowing how firsthand how hurtful that was, I began to ask myself what I could do to help spare them what I had gone through. So I thought about it for a while, and I realized that there were a lot of people trying to do things in my community to help the youth, but they were all people who were 20, 30, maybe 40 years older than them and hadn't really had the connection that I had with my peers. So I started a peer-to-peer program called Warrior Circle, and it was based on our ancestors' belief of being warriors, because each and every Native youth that overcomes statistics are, in my book, they're warriors, and every person that survives, whether it be drug abuse or mental health, every person that overcomes that is resistance to the colonization and what they tried to do to us so many generations ago. So I created Warrior Circle, and it's a place where kids can get together and talk to other kids about things that are happening to them on a day-to-day basis with a moderator there, an adult, somebody who has the resources to be able to say, okay, I hear what you're going through, and here's how I can help you get to the next step, whether it be behavioral health, whether it be a referral to go to the doctor to see if medication might be the answer to help with whatever you're going through. But it really gave kids an outlet to be able to feel like they had a voice to speak up about the things that they were going through. And the result of it was so many kids coming forward and admitting that they had an addiction to, whether it be prescription drugs or whether it be self-harm and things like that. And so many people were able to say, when I came into Warrior Circle, I was close to being pushed over the edge. I was close to doing something that I now know I would have regretted. And it's just been amazing to be able to see how it's affected the people in my community. And prevention-wise, since we're talking about prevention, I just wanted to say that a lot of the people that do prevention, I know firsthand because I've worked in prevention I started it when I was 16, so for like 3 or 4 years before I moved. And it can get really tiring, and you can feel like you're not really making a difference because it's hard to see. It's kind of like you can't see the forest because the trees, everything's in the way, and you're too close to the work that you're doing to actually be able to pull yourself back and see if it's making a difference. But firsthand, I can tell you that you are making a difference, but you're not only making a difference for the people that you're helping, you're making a difference for their future families. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at my 1-year-old and thought, if I had gotten what I wanted that many years ago, and then I just have to stop myself because I don't want to ever think about a world where he doesn't exist. So when you help the kids that are feeling suicidal or may be a victim of an overdose, you're not only helping them, but you're giving them a chance to have families. You're giving their grandchildren and their great-great-grandchildren a chance to. And like I said, that right there is our existence, is our resistance, whether it be to colonization, whether it be to drug and alcohol abuse. The fact that we exist and our future generations are going to exist because the work that you're doing is our resistance. And I just wanted to commend you guys for your work.
Thank you, Jasmine. So, last but not least, the baby of the group, we have Miss Sierra Fields. Sierra is from the Cherokee Nation. She is the 2016 Unity recipient Unity 25 under 25 recipient. Also, 2013 recipient for the Center for Native American Youth Champions for Change. She's a senior in high school. She is a 2-time cancer survivor and an anti-rape advocate. She was nominated for the White House United States of Women Summit as well. So welcome, Sierra.
I hope I speak loud enough for all you guys to hear me. Sorry. Osio Nagata, Usio Mukugesti Dawadoa. Hello, my name is Sierra Fields. The name given to me by our elders is Little Water. And like she says, my work originally started out with, I talked about cancer. I was the cancer kid. And for a long time, it's what I went around Oklahoma, and it's what I became a champion for change for when I was 13. My work originally gave me a voice, and that voice made me louder. It made me proud of who I was. And then I became aware to a lot of social issues I had no idea that was going on in my community. So I started talking about those issues too. I became an advocate for getting help, for improving IHS and helping others get the mental help that they need. I became aware of many issues among our community, one with even within my family, why this is near and dear to my heart. My sister was raped and then she tried to overdose. So opioid abuse and working with suicide prevention is very personal to me. And when I was 15, I was actually sexually assaulted at a conference I was speaking at. So for me, suicide prevention and helping keep other women and other sexual assault victims from turning to opiates and heroin, and then eventually suicide or self-prostitution is something that I've been working on. So Charles Head is the one who founded the One Fire Victim Service. It's in Cherokee Nation, and any woman or man, but they mostly work with women who are abused, raped, sexually assaulted, or are victims of incest can go to them and they will help get them away from their abusers, and they clothe them, they feed them, and they can take them to the hospital and help you report. They also are able to help house women and then help them pretty much go undercover to get away from their abusers and stalkers. And so I was one of their first clients, actually, when I was 15. So they helped me throughout my entire process. I had one of their rape advocates with me when I had to testify. With like many Native women, I had to relive my trauma in a jury full of men and then one woman. They were all white, of course. So One Fire Victim Service, they provided a service not only for me, but they helped me heal. They helped my mother heal too. And so they got me really working with victim services. And so I help with their yearly collection drives, and I do community outreach with them. They have a butterfly releasing ceremony. They've had one for the past 2 years, and I've been a speaker to tell my story both years. And then I have tried to be a voice for the voiceless. I've had many Native youth, many Native young women, sorry, my voice is wavery. I've had many young women come to me. I've had young women who are addicted to opiates. I've had young women who turn to weed, to alcohol because of their sexual assault. Because 1 out of 3 of us will be sexually assaulted. The trauma is so deep and engraved in our history. These women don't know what to do. So they take it out on themselves. They blame themselves. And so they turn to drug use, which is why we have such high statistics of sexual assault and then drug use among our women. My main phrase I use is, I believe you. I was very blessed to have Josie there with me and many others there with me who told me that they believed me and they are there for me during my journey. And sometimes, even if your trauma was 30 years ago, hearing someone finally say, I believe you, can be life-saving. You should see everyone for their human value, not that they're just some druggie, not that they're just an alcoholic, or that they're the girl who was raped at a party. They're humans. Their story deserves to be believed. No one's beyond redemption. Everyone should be offered a chance to get clean, to get therapy, and to get help. They deserve to be in warrior circles, like she said. Just being able to talk helps so many people. If you're close to the edge, having someone there and telling you that you believe them and that you care for them can save somebody. For my prevention, like I've been talking about, I work with rape culture. I teach young boys that silence is no, screaming is no. No is no. It's not always verbal. And then I work with young girls to spot signs of abuse, so they stop falling into the cycle of sexual abuse and then drug use and then suicide. It's a cycle that's been going on for years, and I've seen it time and time again in my community. You see in the paper so many stories of young Native women just killing themselves, or they have an accidental drug overdose. They leave behind children like the women in his community. and then their children have more generational trauma to deal with. I also help with the telling boys that you are your sister's keeper too. It's not just your brother's keeper, stuff like that. We need to protect our women. Our people were warriors. We shouldn't be hurting them. I mean, women can stick up for themselves. Like, I've seen some, strong women. But men should be there for them too. You should be a protector as well. And then I teach others how to spot victims of sexual abuse, knowing when it's going to happen, if someone's showing predatory or stalking behaviors, or if, say, if you're in a bar and so you notice a man watching a woman being predatory, following her and stuff like that. So I talk about all that stuff. I also work within my school and my community. I talk about substance abuse and how tobacco is cancer-causing and how many form dependencies on tobacco and then they go to other drugs. So that's kind of the prevention work that I've been doing, because I don't just work in my community. I've gone to DC about 7 or 8 times now. I've been to New York and I've been to Alaska to work in those areas as well, to try to help get my message and get it out there. Help women, and not just women, it's men too. Many men suffer with these issues of not being believed as well. So for my prevention work, it's been very personal, something that I've been striving for and I don't think I'll ever stop fighting for. Because I believe them, and I believe that they deserve help too. I think that's my last slide.
Please give these kids a round of applause just for coming out here. It's not easy to come out and talk about things that are so personal and dear and just tragic stories like Rory said that he sees on a day-to-day basis. It's not easy, so I just thank you guys for coming out and sharing your stories. I'd like to open now to the audience for questions about just getting into more details about what it is that the youth are doing. So if anyone has any questions, please stand and I'll recognize you.
Sure. What have you found that has been effective in getting the youth engaged and involved with some of the prevention work that you've done?
Okay, for like all of us?
Yeah. Whoever.
Okay. We're just gonna pass it down.
Oh.
Not all at once.
Well, I've been with our youth council and helping develop it for the last couple of years, actually. So I was probably the youngest person to join it, actually. I was in 8th grade, I was 13, 14, and the rest of them were 18, 17, but I still stuck through it. And then it eventually did die out. So keeping them engaged, just keep them motivated, tell them that this is something to do, it's something to keep you, because what I found worked is, I still kept on being with youth council, even if I was the only person in there, and see where it led me to. Led me to being here in Washington, being with our tribal government, seeing a lot of the experience I've done. They're like, oh, I want to do that. And I said, well, join our youth council, come try and help out our community. Be the change you want to see in the world. So that's what I've been trying to, my focus has been the last couple of years now, is trying to get our youth involved in our community. Try to get them out there, helping out here, helping out there. So it's been the best thing, it's been the greatest honor of my life to help in our community. And to let them know of the experiences that has brought me, I hope encourages them to do the same.
With RAC, we keep them engaged is just by the activities we do. Like making a simple card is fun for them. I mean, they get to make a hand trick and scribble all over it. And just because it's made by them, and we have, when we go to Morningstar, we have them personally give like the hand trick that they made to the elders, and just the elders' reaction alone, like it changes them. Like when my sister first did it, she was scared to go in there, and I was like, I'll go in there with you. Like, so I helped her hand went in there, and we gave it to this elder lady, and she told us she hasn't had a visitor in 2 years, and she just started crying, and she hugged my little sister. And after that, my little sister, she was only like 5 at the time, and she knew like what she had done, that it was a good thing, it was the correct thing to do. And we just do different things like that. Even going to the animal shelter, like she gets to carry the little kitty treats in there, and she gets to feed the one to the kitties, and they get excited, and so that's what it makes them feel good, and that's what keeps them engaged. And then they tell their friends about how it feels, and they get engaged too. And what we also do is, instead of saying, oh, you're doing a good thing, you're not out doing drugs, you're saying, oh, good job, you're making a difference in the world. We don't bring in negative, whatever. We tell them, like, you're making a difference. You are the difference as well. And so they kind of give that positive, like, feedback, like, let them know, like, you're important, you are the future, and that just keeps on bringing them back, and they tell their friends, and they tell their friends. And so I figure that's what keeps them engaged.
For us, it's basically what they've already said is, encouraging youth to come out and make positive changes within the community. For me, I was on my youth council I've been on a youth council for about 9 years now, so I started when I was in 6th grade. I didn't want to join at first, but once I found out like the places you can go and the people you can meet and just the positive differences you can make within the community, I decided to join. And so for me, everywhere I go now, or when I talk to our youth, is I mention all the opportunities that they can get. And like for me, I've done a lot of traveling here to DC, to different states, and to different conferences, and it's just basically trying to keep them engaged by saying, if you lead a positive life with positive choices, then this is where you will go, and like you'll go far. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And for our youth council, the past term didn't really have that many youth involved. So our goal was to go around to each district and get youth to join our youth council. So that's what we did. So now our youth council this year is pretty much 38 youth total with 44 positions. So we're just needing about 5, 6 more, and we're good to go. And that's something I'm really proud of, is we got to go out to the communities and let them know, like, if you join youth council, you'll make a difference, and it's a great thing.
I know engagement is a really tough issue to tackle, especially when you're first starting out. Like, it takes a lot to get kids to like put down their cell phones and say, okay, I'll go to this meeting, I'll go. The important thing to do is, as much as we as youth workers wish that the kids would just come to us, you need to take what you're doing and you need to take it to where they are. They're on Twitter, they're on YouTube, they're on Instagram, they're at the community center playing basketball. You need to go where they are and put subtle reminders of your events, put subtle reminders of your clubs, whatever, whether it be a flyer or like a fun Twitter campaign, things like that. You need to see what they're doing and where they spend their time, and you need to make sure that you're there first. You need to make sure that they constantly have reminders. Like if they're scrolling through Facebook and they see the suggested page, oh, you should like this youth council, they check it out, but they don't really like it yet. But then they go on Twitter and they see their suggested followers, oh, you should follow this youth council. So just like constant little reminders where they're at. Eventually, like, you're gonna put the bait there, and eventually they're gonna nibble on it, and then they're gonna take it. And once you get those first few kids to actually engage and start doing what you're doing, it's like a ripple effect. So like they tell their friends, and their friends tell their friends, and what was 2 people coming to your event turns into like 15 people and their cousins coming to your lock-in and things like that. So you need to make sure that you're doing your research to find out who your target audience is, whether it's kids aged 12 to 22 or young adults who are just starting families, things like that. You need to do your research and find out where they spend their time and make sure that you strategically place yourself and your organization there first, so that you're there and you're the first thing that they see. Because if they constantly have those reminders, then they're going to eventually say, oh, well, this has been in the back of my head, I've seen it everywhere, I might as well go get a chance.
I always hate being last because everyone makes like all the points. But basically what I did is, I was actually the youth perspective they brought in to get more youth to learn. Originally, I was just a shy Indian kid who didn't want to talk to anybody, and now I'm just kind of a blabbermouth. So they brought me in, and I made it a lot more real, because there's a difference when you have someone who's like 20, 30 years older than you talking to you and telling you these statistics reality shift. And so I think bringing in a youth perspective and then just generally being positive, reminding them that they are making change, that really keeps kids going. But like what she said, when you start out, you have to reach out to them. Most kids aren't gonna like see, they're like, oh, they're talking about how drugs kill people. I mean, we're not gonna wanna hop on that. It's kind of a scary subject, even though it's very important. A lot of kids want to steer away from it. They don't want to pretend it's an issue. So if you want to get these kids involved, you're going to have to get to them. You're going to have to level with them. Bringing in youth, being on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, it makes you seem relatable and hip. And it makes them feel drawn to what you're doing. Any more questions? Oh. Time. There's two people. Well, they were like the same time. Stand up?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
We're just winging it here.
My question is, how do you reach out to the kids and the youth that don't want to hear it? They hear marijuana and they hear don't do drugs, don't drink, and they're like, I don't want to do that because they know that their friends, more often than not, are going to make fun of them. And I've had personal experiences with that. I have people that I don't drink, they're like, you don't drink, and they don't want to talk to me anymore. And I know that other people feel that way too. So how do you reach out to the people that don't want to hear it because they don't want to hear them? Does that make sense?
From my personal experience, I've dealt with that in high school because I'm still in high school. I completely relate to that. A lot of the issues with kids like that and kids who see like that is a lot of what you're going to say, or no matter what anyone else says, it's not really going to help. For stuff like that, it's more of a personal decision that they have to decide for their own well-being is more important than being cool or having to deal with other people. You can't just make all your decisions based off your friends. And then some kids aren't going to realize that until they have consequences that they have to deal with. And it's a hard realization that a lot of adults and organizations have to come to realize, because some teenagers, no matter how hard you push, you prod, you teach, they don't change. They don't want to hear that alcohol is bad for you, you can die, don't do drugs and stuff like that. But if you do want to reach them, you just have to be very incredibly real with them. Don't sugarcoat anything and then tell them the actual consequences. We know that adults are babying us when you're just like, oh, don't do drugs, just say no to it, and then you just leave it at that. If you actually want to make an impact, show them the consequences of their decisions.
And just to add on to what she was saying, I feel like on top of not sugarcoating it, you also, because we've heard like ever since we were little, like drugs are bad, don't do them. So like what you say, there's a chance, the chances are that they've already heard it. And they've already heard it 10, 20, 30 times in school, in the library, with my grandparents. So I feel like now we're to the point where prevention workers need to sort of get unique with it. Like, you don't need to tell them that, you need to show them. Like, the most powerful thing you can do is you can take somebody that is their age, like a peer, who's willing to come forward and say, okay, well, they said drugs are bad, and no, I didn't believe them, and this is what happened. The teenagers, like, I'm sure you guys all know, they do not like to be told what to do. So, like, you can tell them until you're blue in the face, don't do this, you're gonna get hurt. It's just part of the childhood experience. You have to learn on your own. So I would say getting unique with the ways that you show them this is what happens. So whether it be through like a creative PSA video that your group puts together, or like a Twitter campaign or something like that, that really helps encourage more youth to come forward and say, I did it and this is what happens, and they're not kidding when they say drugs will ruin your life. Because you can say it and say it and say it, but it won't become real to them until it's brought down to their level and it's sort of staring them in the face. And they only have the choice of do it and this happens, or change your life and this happens.
And to add on to their, to the kids that are like that, for sure you can offer your support for them as well. I know, like, I vow to never do drugs or alcohol ever, because, I mean, people link Native Americans to that stereotype all the time. So I'm gonna like break that stereotype, and I vow never to do it. And so I'm blessed to have a roommate she's a wonderful roommate in college, and she has the same exact vow as well. And so we have like people like in our dorm, they come banging on our doors, slam on doors because they're drinking, and we are there to like support each other as well. Like, hey, like that is why do they do that? And so it's just awesome to like be there for those people as well. I mean, like you said, like, you may lose friends or never talk to you, but if you're there for them and you give them that support, you can support each other as well. I mean, I know I have friends that drink, and I tell them like, hey, like it's not right to do. And like they said, if you have a peer that's on the same level too, they're more likely to listen to you because you have that connection, especially if it's a friend. And so the more that my different friends would hang out with me, and I do not go near it at all, they tend to lean off more of that underage drinking as well. And sometimes you really do need a like horrific situation to happen. I know, I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago, there was a party in Riverton. I mean, it's a small town, there's nothing to do but party, and that's what people blame for the underage drinking, but you can honestly find different things as well, like you could go hiking or something. But when I've been at that party, a guy was showing off, obviously intoxicated, and he was trying to drive up this hill or something in a truck, but the truck gave out and he came back and crushed a girl, took off one of her legs, and so that was very eye-opening to the whole community as well. And so with that, like you just need support, a good support system as well, instead of a tragedy. I mean, sometimes it does take a tragedy to get through the thick skull, I guess you would say, but I would say support is the better way to go. It's more efficient, I would say, and you can spread support more. Yeah.
The woman behind her had a question.
Oh,
and then you can next.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you. You all are amazing young leaders, and you really know the kind of work that's necessary with young people in your communities. As adults, we think that we know everything, we know what you all should be doing, but we really don't. So we need to step up and let you do what you best. But my question is, you all still do need support. What advice would you give to adults, whether they're your communities and tribal organizations or federal agencies or other agencies? What advice would you give us about supporting the prevention work that you're doing?
Well, this morning at the beginning session, when the one lady, I forget her name, but she was wearing like a maroon shirt, and she was talking about how a lot of people would like to work with youth, and they would like it to just happen like that, but it doesn't happen like that, because our youth, especially Native youth, we're very guarded. I feel like we're very set in our ways, and we're very guarded with who we entrust to speak to open up to, and to confide to. So I would say in adult situations where you want to help the youth and the youth-led initiatives, you really have to work on establishing a community presence first. You want to make sure that the kids are seeing you, the kids are getting comfortable with you, and you're making sure that whenever you're there, they feel like the environment is a safe environment. They feel like the environment is an environment where they can grow and they can be honest and real with you, and then you can in turn be honest and real with them. So making sure that you have that presence and you give off sort of that vibe, because they'll pick up on whether you really want to listen to them or you're really just trying to use them to get the extra $1,000 to have youth programs or something like that. So to really be openly, honestly interested and understanding and non-judgmental is really important when you want to work with youth and collaborate with youth leaders such as us.
For me, I would say make sure youth always have a seat at the table. Let them voice their own concerns and opinions, and that way, because with the MSPI that we're partnered with, she wanted us to partner with us because she knew that since we're trying to target youth, that the youth would have great input and great advice. So that's just that. Make sure you have a seat at the table.
My advice and what I've ran into with adults who want to partner with me is don't be condescending. We know when adults think that we're dumb, that we don't know what we're talking about, and then when you, even if you don't mean to, when you have just that innate aura coming off of you, we know, and then we don't want to work with you. If we feel like kids. We don't want to feel like we're just the token children you're bringing to bring in grant money. We don't want to feel used. We want it to feel like a partnership and symbiotic where it goes both ways. So if you want to work with the kids to keep the kids and have them trust you, be honest with them, brutally honest with these children. Not children, young adults too. But be honest to them and level with them. Don't act like you're superior because you're coming in and treating us like a charity case. We want to help you. We want to help ourselves, but we don't want to feel dumb and stepped on. Make sure the high chairs are just kind of equal when we're sitting at the table.
And to add on to exactly what Sierra said with the condescending thing, and with Lance about the boys, I would say give them a little responsibility, kind of like they have their own drive themselves. For example, I worked with our school district back in Riverton with the cultural presentations, and I made a whole history board about Northern Rappahoes and Eastern Shoshone to teach the school about it. But what the principal of my high school said, he said, well, I'll give you permission to do it, but on one condition, you have to plan it all. And I said, okay, that gave me the drive to do how I wanted to do the presentations when I do it. He just gave me the permission and the responsibility to plan it all. And so I think that will work really well is when you feel like you do have a voice and you're actually doing something about it instead of just being that little voice saying yeah, let's do this, and then you never do it. But when you give the youth and the responsibility, they will want to do it and push for it as well.
Yeah. It's repeating Sierra's words, hate being last because everybody takes what I want to say, but I was just trying to finish it off, just something I've always stuck with me. I think I heard this in elementary school. When you're speaking to somebody, seek first to understand and to be understood. Just listen. Just keep an open mind, listen. Treat us equally. Treat us like how you want to be treated. Others. Something that's always stuck with me since elementary school. I was always told this last couple of years too. You aren't leaders of tomorrow. You're leaders of today. And so treat us like it, please.
My question actually follows yours. I work for the U.S. Department of Education, and we provide funding to schools, particularly schools. It's called Title VII. And some of you may have benefited. How many of you have heard of Title VII? So I'm asking you, now I do work with a couple of your districts, like for example, I know exceptional. But what could we do from the Department of Education to, was there anything that happened for each of you that triggered your leadership development in your own school? Were you given a voice at a young age? Some of you came to your experiences through personal experiences that you grew out of. But I just, would love to hear what can you do better at the elementary school level? Because usually that's where the money goes. Any ideas? Appreciate it. I'm listening.
Okay, I was like, okay, to reflect that, actually what inspired me was the youth, of course, but particularly in middle school and high school is when I realized hey, I want to kind of do something about education as well, is the very sugar-coated, very sugar-coated Native culture. You really don't learn about it. And when you talk about history, it really is his story. It doesn't talk about natives at all. And so that's what I really wanted to push to learn about real natives. And so with our Title VII, I know that they got the elementary kids, they got the different elementaries of books. So they got free books. And we have a Native youth or Native American advisor in each school where I'm from. And what they also had to be in touch with that Native side is they had these books by this author. I don't know, I know he's Native American, but he writes traditional Native American stories and really illustrates it. And so they had those in the elementaries as well. And so that was a big hit. I mean, each kid had a book, and I saw them everywhere. I mean, I even got some when I went to elementary school there, and I still have it now. And so that was really awesome of them, just to like get the books out and kind of teach about like Native history rather than like learning off the stereotypes. So there's mine.
I'll let them know. The difference.
Thank you.
I can tell that they make a difference. They're great. Thank you.
Now, I come from another unique perspective on this issue. I was born and raised on the reservation, but when I was 4, my mother decided, we need to move off. I think there might be some more opportunities for you. So I lived off the reservation from 5 to 12. And then when I came back on, so I wasn't available for JOM or Title VII services from elementary school, middle school, until I moved back to the reservation for high school. And then, as I stated before, when I opening, I had this drive to help out in our community because there wasn't any youth in our community helping out and trying to make a better community for all of us. And so it was, a lot of my drive was from my grandfather, who was a strong community leader. But I'm very grateful for the services provided for me from Title VII, such as our Title VII offered Native American support and also extracurricular activities, focusing on community engagement, trying to make the community a better place. And also for the sport, also with being back on the reservation, I also had more activities on the side. And so I had someone always pushing me, come on, you gotta do this, keeping on me all the time, as well as my parents. So we had great support. But I think something that's something I've also seen as issue is the lack of positive role models in our community. Not letting people for our youth to look up to. So I think that's another thing to bring in, make sure we have enough positive role models and creating positive role models. I hope I've done that, and that's why I like to work with our youth councils and different programs in our community.
Is this session being video recorded?
Yes.
Oh, very good. I'm going to see if we can get a copy to put on our community website so that Title VII coordinators can access what I've heard. This has been so inspiring. Thank you. Keep going.
My perspective is I am the child of a public school teacher. My mom is a speech pathologist, and isn't it a 70% ELL school?
Yeah, my school's 70% ELL.
She works in inner city Tulsa. It's one of the poorest schools that they have. She has children who only eat once a day. Her classrooms are about, would you say 45, 50 students per classroom?
We were up to almost 40.
40 students per classroom. There are groups of children of 5 who are having to share books that are falling apart. I once visited her school, and they literally had 2 toilets, which had pretty much exploded on the floor, and they couldn't fix it. So they were just letting the water leak everywhere, and mold was forming on the walls. While we like to say we hand out books and we do so much for these inner city kids, many kids in the res, many kids in inner city areas are left behind. They are not getting quality education. Just look at Detroit and what's going on with their school system. It's a mess, straight and simple. Many of these kids, they don't feel appreciated, they feel underserved, and they feel like they're going to do absolutely nothing with their lives. Like, it's good to get JOM supplies and that, occasionally you get a book about what real Indians are like. But most of the time, most schools do not receive that. It seems like there's nothing being done, and these teachers feel hopeless. My mom is seeing teachers she knows resign left and right because of the state of education in Oklahoma. It's awful, and these teachers are not being appreciated. They are putting to work in subpar education systems, and there's nothing being done about it.
I'm just going to respond a minute, and I hear you, and that is the case. And just as Joy said, so often it is who gets the funds, the Title VII coordinator, and the level of commitment that she brings to it. There's a whole network of schools in Oklahoma that are doing some really significant things for you. So part of it is, looking and networking within the state itself
forgotten children who are left behind at these schools.
I agree, and one of the things that we promote is adding the students to the parent committees, because Title VII requires that there's a parent committee, and it should be, at least every quarter. Some districts have it every month. But if you all were at the table with the parents, you could be the change.
Exactly, because it makes more sense to have youth. The parents aren't the ones who are at schools in those conditions. It would just make more sense. Like, a lot of kids are thankful for what is being done, but there's so much more which could be brought to the table.
Right, and you all, as leaders, remain abused, will be able to be at the table next time that legislation is rewritten. Ensure that more youth voices are mandated in statute, so it's not just a parent committee.
Thank you for your questions and everything.
Sorry, just a comment. Many of the advices that you've been saying just really resonate with me, and especially yours about listening. I think it's very important, and I just want to thank you again for your advice and tips of how to improve programs. I think that crucial advice is listening. Keep listening is one of the things that I'm taking away. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Couple of comments and some good things to do for a community. Rewording the events. That's a good idea. I like that. My question to you is, when you do all your community events, are you close to the action? Do you get your tribe into it too, or is it just for yourself? Because I know back home, when we do cultural events or events like that, that's what makes us stand out with our pride.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said before, Riverton, it's supposed to be considered the Run River Reservation, but there's a whole EPA decision that's way overboard saying it's not part. But that's what I do exactly is I build that bridge of the racial tension as I get the tribe involved, like Northern Arapaho, involved with that town to ease the racial tensions. But that's what I want to do exactly is involve as many Native Americans as possible to show that we are unique as well and that we're different. We're not just the stereotype of the feathers and face paint, because we obviously are not. And so I think you are correct. That's what makes us proud. It's what makes us who we are. It's our identity. And so with that, the cultural event, the events, we do try to put as much culture as we can. We let people know who we are, why are we doing this, and what we're doing exactly. It's just to erase all the negative images of Native Americans in general. And so by showing who we really are, I mean, you really don't have to be in traditional regalia all the time to let people know who you are. Just by me introducing myself in my own language. That's how I introduce myself to people, is in my own language, and that's how they know right off the bat who I am, what my identity is as well. I mean, I don't have to be in any sort of regalia, just by saying who I am and the tribe I am. And just that itself sets the standard. It sets the bar, I guess. The bar to show who we are and that we're still here as well.
Personally, for me, like Christy, almost all my work is rooted within my tribal community. Every event I go to, I introduce myself in Cherokee, or my mother is my seamstress. My mother is the one who makes my traditional clothes. Right now, in her purse, actually, she is beading a pair of leggings, beaded leggings, fully for me to wear at my own graduation. Because originally my school did not allow any traditional regalia or anything to be worn. My act of defiance in bringing my culture to the table and letting everyone know this is my pride, this is who I am, is those leggings, the beadwork, the Cherokee 7-pointed star for each of our clans. All my work that I've personally done is for my culture, it involves my culture. It's living it and breathing it and helping our other Native peoples.
For us, majority of our events are culturally, are infused with our culture, like our autumn camp that I mentioned during our presentation. It's where we come together for a weekend with at least 50 youth, and we choose a sacred site or a site that's relevant to us in our culture on our reservation, and we camp out and we share traditional songs, dances, and traditional games. So I think that's like our biggest thing right there is our autumn camp and how we can teach the youth about our culture and who we are.